Hey guys, welcome to another video. If you're new here, my name is Kiara and I'm a full-time crochet business owner, and in this video I will be doing a recap of the best event I ever had selling my crocheted plushies. So this event actually happened just over a month ago, and I had made the decision of not making a video for this event basically midway through the fair. It was like a big fair. And I actually started filming clips to make a video, and then it was just going so well. I was selling so much stuff, and then midway through the weekend I was like, I don't think I should be taking the time to edit this video during the week since I had more markets coming up. So I decided to take the time to crochet more stuff for my upcoming markets instead of doing the video. But I still have some of the clips, so I'm gonna do a whole recap of the whole event based on my memory, I guess. And I do have like my whole breakdown of all my sales, so I'm really excited to share all of that with you guys. So this was a 3-day event, and it was a fair, so there was like a midway and just a bunch of activities like I don't know if there was like a rodeo part, but like horse pulls, things like that, you know, there was farm animals and all that stuff. Just, you know, the general fair. And it was just so busy. I did this event last year and I did really well last year, but this year I think I made almost double the amount of sales. It was just crazy, and I was lucky enough to have my parents come down and help me out with this event, so I was really thankful that they came and helped out with that. So before I show you guys any clips of my setup at the fair and me updating you guys throughout the first 2 days, I'm just going to talk a bit about the fair and the event so you guys have a little bit of context for specific clips. So last year, the Saturday was the busiest. Friday was like kind of the middle day, I guess. Like it was not as good as Saturday, but better than Sunday. And then Sunday was the slowest in sales. So I guess I was kind of like expecting that same situation this year. But then on Friday, it was like so busy and the sales were there. Like well, not everybody, but you know, a lot of people were buying, and it was just crazy in sales on Friday. And I was like, there is no way we can even pass this on Saturday. And we didn't. So this year, the Friday was the busiest and the best day in sales. And then Saturday was still pretty close behind. And then Sunday was a little bit slower, but still good sales. And of course, by Sunday, I had a lot less inventory since I sold so much stuff. And there's a few like funny stories about specific items that were just literally selling out. And then every time I made more at the fair, I would literally put it out and it would sell. I'm going to talk more about those specific things later on. But I just wanted to tell you guys, Friday was the busiest day, then it was Saturday, then it was Sunday. Now I'm just going to add the clips of my setup at the fair on the Friday. There's a few clips of me updating you guys throughout the day Friday. And then there's my setup again on Saturday morning. So of course some things are gone because they sold on Friday. And then there's a clip of me updating you guys on Saturday. So here is the clips of the fair that I kept for you guys. The fair started about an hour ago and I made really good sales so far, so hopefully it keeps going well. It's just past 1, so we've been here for a while. We're doing pretty good. It kind of comes in waves, so when it's slower, I just crochet. It's going well again today. I think sales might be a bit lower than yesterday, but I mean, that's all right. We did really well yesterday. And yeah, so I'm not feeling the best, really lightheaded, so I'm trying to drink a lot of water to stay hydrated. So I apologize, I didn't take like a clip of what was left after the fair, like at the end of the day Sunday, and I didn't even take a clip at the beginning of the day Sunday, because that's when I decided I wasn't making a video or anything, and then later on my mom was like, oh well, maybe you can just make like a recap video, and I figured you guys might want to see that, and I don't have any markets for a while right now, so I figured this was good video material and I can share that with you guys. But I really wish I did take like a clip right before we tear down on Sunday, since I think it would have been fun to see like how sparse it was at the end compared to the beginning. One thing about this fair though, and I did have the same issue last year, is especially kids are so brutal with my stuff. Like in general at other markets, there are some kids that literally manhandle my stuff and drop it on the ground and everything, but not as much as at this fair. Like I just found at this specific event last year too, like I didn't have my parents with me there last year. It was just me and my boyfriend, and sometimes my boyfriend would leave to go like let our dogs out at home and stuff. So sometimes I'd be alone last year and I was like so overwhelmed because I had to try and tell, you know, everyone's kid like, please be gentle with the plushies, because unfortunately at this event a lot of parents didn't tell their kids to be gentle. I'm not saying all of them. Some were very gentle with the plushies and some parents told their kids to be gentle, but a lot of them didn't. So then I'm trying to make sure that kids don't drop my plushies on the dirty floor, because at this event we're kind of like, I don't want to call it a barn because it's not a barn, but the ground isn't clean and it's like wood, but there's so much like dust and stuff. So as soon as someone drops a plushie, especially like a light colored one, it is super dirty and it's hard to wash off. So it's just very stressful at this specific event to try to tell people's kids nicely, you know, be gentle because you don't want to drop it, because if you drop it then it's all dirty and I can't sell it, you know what I mean? So at this specific event, I don't know why, but last year it was the same thing, and I just feel like I don't have this issue at other events, and I've done other fairs like this too, and I just feel like it's not as bad at the other fairs. But I had a few plushies get dropped on the ground, and they were like light colored ones, so my mom had to run to the bathroom and try to wash it with water and soap. So it was just like really stressful and frustrating in that way. So I kind of want to prepare myself for next year, but I just don't know how, because I mean, you obviously have to be nice to these people and you can't just be like, hey, don't touch them. But I don't know, like there was just so many kids that would come in my booth, play with the plushie very aggressively, drop it on the ground and leave. So it's like I want to discourage that behavior, but I just don't know how, because they're not my kids. It's not my place to tell them what to do. But I do work very hard on making all these plushies, and it's very discouraging when that keeps happening. But I think next year me and my mom are going to try to be a little bit more like, try to prevent that from even happening. So if we see a kid coming into the booth unattended without a parent, we're going to tell them, please don't touch, just look with your eyes kind of thing, just to try to prevent that from happening overall. And something else that did happen at this fair that also happened at this same fair last year, and I don't think it's happened at any other event that I know of, I can't say for sure, is having something stolen. So last year, I did make a whole video about this fair last year, and I had a chicken nugget stolen last year, and obviously that's very frustrating and like it made me sad, you know, that someone stole something from me. But a chicken nugget is only a small thing. It's like $8. So yes, it was discouraging, but it was only $8. But this year I did have you know, I can't say for sure that someone stole it because like I didn't see it happen, but I'm gonna explain later why we know it's gone and no one bought it. It was a medium sea turtle that's worth $25, so that's a lot more obviously, and like I just don't know how we missed that. Like we missed someone taking off with it. But when I took like pictures and videos of my setup at first, there was 2 medium green sea turtles, and then when we were packing up, I didn't pack up a green sea turtle, but I knew I sold one, and then we literally like counted all the sea turtles we sold and everything, and we counted the ones we packed up, and there was one missing and it was a green one. So, you know, we figured that it must have been stolen. And at times there was like so many people in the booth, it was like insane. So my mom would try to stand at the end of my booth so that she could kind of see if someone does take off with something without paying for it. But I mean, I don't blame her. It's not her fault. Like, sometimes there was so many people, it must have been impossible for her to even see or notice. Or if she was preoccupied with someone else and I was preoccupied with someone else, someone can very easily take something and take off. And at this fair, again, kind of with the kids not being gentle, there was a lot of kids that would just take stuff from my booth and take off with it because they wanted to show their parents or something. So we had to basically tell them, hey, you can't leave with it. Like, I understand your parent may be in this building, but you still can't take off with it. You have to get your parent to come here, or at least ask. But it did happen a lot of times that we caught a kid trying to leave just to show their parent. So it's possible that a kid took off with it and we just didn't notice. I'm not saying it was a kid, maybe it was an adult. It's just an observation that at this event we did notice a lot of kids taking off with stuff because they wanted to show their parents. So yeah, it is pretty discouraging that someone stole a $25 item this year. So now I'm out that sea turtle, but I guess it is what it is, you know, when you have a business, things like that happen. It sucks, but it happens. So even though there was a lot of stress in this event with things like that, I am still planning on doing it next year because it was very, very profitable for me, especially this year. So my mom's probably going to come again to this event with me next year. And I mean, we say we're going to try to be more like vigilant and more like try to be more on the lookout for things like that. But I mean, we really did everything we could. So we're just going to do our best again next year and hope no one steals anything and hope no one damages anything. But despite all that stress, we still did really, really well at this event. So I will tell you guys how much I made like on each day, and then just a whole, I guess, breakdown of the fees I had to pay to be there and everything and all my profits. And then after that, we will do a whole breakdown of all my sales. So on the Friday, which was the best day in sales, I made $1,736, which is insane for one day, in my opinion at least. Maybe some of you are like, yeah, that's a good day, that's normal, but that was the most I've ever made. No, actually, it's not the most I've ever made in one day, but very close. And on the Saturday, I made $1,627, so very close behind Friday. And then the Sunday was a lot slower, but still did well, is $688. So those are the 3 days. So the total that we made that weekend is $4,051. So that's a lot. So in the 3 days of the fair, I made a total of $4,051, and the booth fee was $250. And I also needed to get insurance for those 3 days, so that was $57.40. And of course, because of that many sales, the square fees are going to be higher. So the square fees were $32.10, but I still made a very good amount of money at the end of the weekend in profit. So I made a total profit of $3,711.50. So that's the best event I've ever done. I've never made that much in a singular event. And yeah, so I'm really, really happy about that. Now I know that when I say profit, that doesn't take into consideration like the gas that I took to get there and the material costs and all that stuff, but that does get taken into consideration at the end of each month, just not for like specific events. So like I gotta say, at the end of the weekend I was like, wow, like that is an insane amount of money to make at an event. And so yeah, I say that the amount of money I made on Friday is not the most I've ever made in one day. So the most I ever made in one day was Canada Day, like 2 years ago? Yeah, 2 or 3 years ago. I don't even remember. I made a video about it though, but this was like at the very beginning of my YouTube channel, so the video is not the best, and I apologize for that if you do go watch it. But I believe at that one day event, it was Canada Day and it was a Saturday, and I had made, I think, like $1,900, like just under 2,000 in one day. That was the most I ever made in one day, and I don't think we'll ever beat it, honestly. That's okay though, because that day was absolutely crazy. But this is the most I've ever made in like a singular event. Now for the breakdown of all my sales. So I will tell you guys how many of each items I sold out of the amount that I brought, and I will tell you guys how much I sold that item for, and I will put a picture of it up here to show you what it was, and this will be a very long breakdown, so buckle up. So I guess we will start with clearance items. I don't even know how many I brought, but this was the first time I had a little clearance section, and it was just because I had a lot of stuff that I made a very long time ago, and it's well made still. It's just not stuff that I normally sell at markets. So a lot of them were just like little coin bags or things like that that I just made when I was like 12, you know. But I have been crocheting for a very, very long time, so even at 12 my stitches were even and everything. It's just stuff that I kind of wanted gone, but still make a little bit of money from it. So anyways, I sold a total of 17 clearance items at this event, and that was for a total of $34, so they must have all been for $2. I had some at $2 and some at $5, but I think at this event I only sold them for $2. So I was happy to get those clearance items out. Now for like the stuff I usually always sell, you know, plushies. So starting with small axolotls, I started with 4 of them and I sold all 4 for $18 each. I started with one big axolotl and I sold it for $28. I started with one bat and I sold it for $22. Mind you, this was before Halloween, so I did sell a lot of Halloween items at this event. I started with 7 medium bees and I sold 6 of them for $20 each. I started with 12 small bees and I sold 8 of them for $12 each. I started with one big reversible octopus and I sold it for $20. I started with 14 little birdies and I sold 6 of them for $12 each. I started with one big bunny and I sold it for $32. I started with 6 medium cats and I sold all 6 of them for $20 each. And I'm pretty sure I sold all 6 of the cats on the Friday. So for the rest of the weekend, I did not have any more cats. I started with 13 mini chickens and I sold all 13 of them for $10 each. And I think I actually crocheted one mini chicken at the event because there was a vendor that was like kind of across from us, and she had seen I had like a little mini chicken in a certain color, and she's like, oh, I'd really like one like that. And then by the time she came back, they all sold, and I had the yarn with me to make another one, so I was like, okay, I'll make you another one. So I made another one and she bought it. I started with 12 regular chickens and I sold 9 of them for $18 each. I started with 26 chicken nuggets and I sold 15 of them for $8 each. I started with 8 chubby bunnies and I sold 5 of them for $15 each. I started with one chunky whale and I sold it for $20. I started with 5 dragons and I sold 2 of them for $50 each. I started with 1 fried egg and I sold it for $15. I started with 7 elephants and I sold 3 of them for $28 each. I started with 6 ghosts. They were like for Halloween, I guess. And I had sold all 6 of them for $15 each. I started with 4 giant jellyfishes and I sold 1 for $50. This is the biggest thing I have ever made and sold, other than like cardigans and stuff like that. So I had 1 giant unicorn. It was huge, guys. And I sold it for $120, and it was actually to this lovely lady that I actually met last year at this fair, and she works in a food truck that's like outside in the fair. And yeah, so she came by to say hi on the first day, and then she looked at the giant unicorn. She's like, okay, I might have to come back for that. And she actually came back and bought it on the Saturday before I even took the video of my setup. So it's not there in the video of the setup on Saturday, but I sold it right before I took that video. I started with 10 geese and I sold 9 of them for $28 each. I kind of have a funny story about those, but I will tell you guys after the breakdown. I started with 1 Canadian goose and I sold it for $30. I guess that's like not really funny story, but there is a story to that one too, and I'll tell you guys after. I got a lot of things to tell you guys after. I started with 1 Mallard duck and I sold it for $30. I started with 13 hot dogs and I sold 10 of them for $25 each, and they come with their little red basket and napkin. I started with 1 small jellyfish and I sold it for $25. I started with 80 keychains and I sold 36 of them for $8 each. I started with 6 big frogs and I sold 4 of them for $18 each. I started with 34 small frogs, and I am very confused by my writing here. I'm gonna have to go double check that. Apparently that was a 21. So I started with 34 small frogs and I sold 21 of them for $8 each. I started with 8 mini dinos and I sold 4 of them for $12 each. I started with 9 mini mushies and I sold 4 of them for $10 each. I started with 16 mini turtles and I sold 7 of them for $12 each. I started with 6 big mushies and I sold 5 of them for $20 each. I started with 10 chunky octos and I sold 5 of them for $10 each. I started with 17 mini octos and I sold 7 of them for $8 each. I started with 4 octopals and I sold 1 for $15. That's just an octopus plushie with embroidered eyes instead of plastic eyes so that they can be given to babies so they're not like a choking hazard. I started with 9 pumpkins and I sold 4 of them for $15 each. I started with 14 rubber duckies and I sold all 14 of them for $15 each. At this time, I didn't have the ones that squeaked, so they were just like regular rubber duckies. And after I completely sold out of them, I still had people coming to my booth and being like, oh my god, do you have more rubber duckies? And I was like, I unfortunately don't. So I feel like if I had more rubber duckies, I would have sold more. I started with 7 snakes and I sold 3 of them for $25. I started with 1 snuggler and I sold it for $35. I started with 2 squids and I sold 1 for $25. I started with 1 stingray and I sold it for $30. I started with 15 small sea turtles and I sold 12 of them for $18 each. I started with 10 jumbo sea turtles and I sold 1 for $38. I started with 9 medium sea turtles and I sold 5 of them for $25 each and had 1 stolen. I started with 5 weighted chickens and I sold 3 of them, and they ranged from $32 to $38. So I had some at $32, some at $35, and some at $38 because they were all different weights, so that's why they're different prices. Now, to be completely honest with you, I'd have to go double check which ones exactly I sold, but I'm not going to go do that. So I'm just going to tell you guys they range from $32 to $38. And lastly, finally, I started with 18 mini whales and I sold 8 of them for $8 each. So that is a total of 278 items I sold at this event. So that is so many items. I think that was definitely over half of the items I brought there. So I obviously had a lot of restocking to do after that, and it's been over a month and I still haven't like caught back up to the inventory I had before because I've just been having a bunch of events too. So that was a lot of items. Now I'm gonna tell you guys the top 6 best sellers for this event. Sometimes I would only do top 3, but I mean, I sold just so many items, so I thought it was worth it to tell you guys, like, I guess, more of the best sellers. And also, at first I had only done top 5 because I thought that the number for the small frogs was an 11, but turns out it was 21, so I had to kind of rearrange my best sellers, and that's why I just did top 6, and I just kind of added that small frogs in there. So, for this event's best sellers, number 1, there's no news here, it is keychains, and I sold 36 of them. Number 2 is small frogs, and I sold 21 of them. Number 3 is chicken nuggets, and I sold 15 of them. Number 4 is rubber duckies, and I sold 14 of them. Number 5 is mini chickens, and I sold 13. And lastly, for bestsellers, number 6, we have small sea turtles, and I sold 12 of them. But of course, you know, I sold so many items, but those were the best sellers. And honestly, it's nothing new. That's usually kind of the items that make it to the top best sellers. Keychains are always up there. Small frogs and chicken nuggets are pretty good sellers, like at any event. And well, the rubber duckies were very popular too. And yeah, so it was definitely a very good event. Now, I have a few more stories to tell you guys about this event. It was a very eventful event. But yeah, I mentioned like the Goose story, but I'm gonna get to that in a second. There is one story that I wanna say right now. So this must have been like early on in the day on Friday. So some guy comes into my booth, and at first I didn't even like realize he had a shirt on from one of the food trucks outside. And so anyways, he asks if I have any ducks, so I show him to the rubber duckies, and then he asked if I had any bigger ones, and I was like, well, I have like the Mallard duck that's bigger than the rubber ducky, but I didn't really know if that's what he was like looking for. So anyways, he picks out the Mallard duck, a rubber ducky, and a medium sea turtle. So his total was $70, and he gives me $100. So I'm like, oh, let me get you your change. And he's like, oh, no, you don't need to give me like the change. I was like, what do you mean? Like, that's $30. And he just like walks away. But I guess he had spoke to my parents that were right outside my booth while he was looking at stuff. So anyways, my parents knew he was at a food truck. So then I was like, he didn't want his change. Like, I was like baffled by that. Like, sometimes some people say like keep the change when it's like $2, and I'm very grateful when people do that because they don't need to do that. But like $30, that's a lot of money. So then my parents were like, oh yeah, he's just at a food truck outside. So I'm like, okay, well, we're definitely going to be getting food at that food truck throughout the weekend. And turns out he bought the Mallard duck and rubber ducky to display outside of his food truck. I'm going to put a picture right here that I took later on in the weekend. So that did a lot of advertising for me because so many people would go to his food truck and be like, oh my god, those are so cute, where did you get those? And he'd say like inside that building right there, and then they'd come find me. So I think that's why I sold out of rubber duckies, because so many people just saw that and came and bought a rubber ducky. And that's why a lot of people came into my booth asking for rubber duckies when I had already sold out, because they knew there was rubber duckies somewhere. But by that point I had sold out. And I only had the one Mallard duck, unfortunately, but some people saw it and wanted one. and they came and asked if I had more, but I didn't. So sometimes they would settle for like a rubber ducky or something smaller or something else in my booth. But yeah, so that definitely did a lot of advertising. So that kind of goes with the story of the Canadian Goose. So the Canadian Goose is also $30, and if we remember, he literally gave me a $30 tip, so I was like, I need to give him something. So then I brought the Canadian Goose out to him, and I'm like, do you want it? Like, I can give you this. And he was like so grateful for it, but I'm like, you basically paid for it, you know? So I gave him the Canadian Goose, but I still marked it that I sold it because it's been paid for. So yeah, we were extremely grateful to this guy in the food truck for this entire weekend. He was a great customer and did a lot of advertising for us, so we definitely went to his food truck quite often to get some really good food throughout the weekend. Now, for the, I guess, funny goose story, so I think on the Friday I had only brought 6 geese, and they all sold really early on Friday. And so on Saturday, I was like, hey, I definitely need to bring more yarn to make more at the event, right? Because it's a very long day. It was from like, what was it? Like 10, or no, I think it was like from 9 a.m. to 8 p.m. So they were very long days. So of course you bring crochet to do over there because it really came in waves. So when it wasn't super busy, I would just crochet. So I brought yarn to make geese on Saturday, but like I mentioned in the little clip that I updated you guys on Saturday, I wasn't feeling the best, so I was really thankful for my mom for like helping me out with sales with customers and just talking to customers, so that really helped me out. So yeah, on Saturday I wasn't crocheting all day because I was just not feeling well and I was just trying to feel better. So I think like sometime on Saturday in the afternoon, I ended up finishing a goose. And what my mom was also really helpful with is that every time I finished a plushie at the event, I would put like a price tag on it, and she would sew on the tag with my logo on it so that I could get started on another plushie. And so I had finished the goose and I gave it to her so she can put a tag with my logo on it. And then I was like, okay, I need to go to the bathroom or something, so I left. And as I came back, she was still putting the tag with the logo on, and there was someone waiting there. And the goose sold before it was even out. Like, someone, I guess, saw my mom putting the tag with my logo on the goose, and they were like, oh my god, can I buy that? Because there wasn't one out yet, because it was the first one I had finished after I sold out of them on Friday. So the goose sold before it was even out and displayed. So that was really funny. And so, yeah, when I say I started with 10 geese, like the 10th one, I think I finished it like right before the market ended, or the event. I finished it like right before it ended, so it wasn't displayed for very long. But so maybe if I had it out like later on Friday or early on Saturday, maybe I would have sold all 10 of them. We don't know, but I just say that I started with 10 of them because every time I made one, I just added it to my inventory. So anyways, geese and rubber duckies were very, very popular. And on Saturday, I also brought yarn to make rubber duckies. So I think I also just started with 10 of them at first. And then I crocheted 4 of them like while I was there. And they just all sold. Now, of course, it's impossible to know if the same things are going to be popular at this specific event next year, but when I do this event next year, I'm definitely going to do my best to really stock up on geese and rubber duckies. And this year, like now I also have like rubber duckies that squeak, so I'm just going to make sure to really stock up on those ones for this specific event next year. Now watch, I will do all that, stock up on geese and rubber duckies, and that's not even what's going to sell, but we don't know, but I will do my best to try to be more prepared with those specific items. So I think I covered everything for the recap of the fair. Now again, I'm really, really thankful to both my parents for helping me out at this event. It was only my mom who stayed with me like throughout the whole event, but my dad also came to help me set up and tear down. And he also stayed home with my pets while I was at this super long event. So they were both very, very helpful, and it was very nice having them with me. And I will do this event again next year. My mom is going to come with me, so I am moving away from this area just basically in a month, actually. So I won't be in the same area, but I will do the drive and come stay with family to come do this event again next year. I'm gonna come down here and do the big events, the big fairs like that, since they are very profitable and worth it for me. So I'm so grateful for everyone who came and supported me at this event. Very grateful for the food truck guy and his lovely food that they make in that food truck. Very good. So I'm looking forward to it again next year, hoping we can see all those amazing people again next year. Hopefully we can try to get a little grasp on the issue of dropping things on the ground and people taking off with stuff, but overall we still did really well, and I'm really, really happy with how the whole fair went. So that's gonna be it for today's video. Thank you guys so much for watching. I hope you guys enjoyed this little recap, even though it's been a month since the fair. So make sure to subscribe if you want to see more videos like this. My next event is in a little bit, so stay tuned for that video, and I will see you guys next time. Bye!